What's up, fam? Welcome back. Future Focus Podcast. James Lowry here and
Anthony Smith. And back there on the boards, we got my man Wilson McPhilson. Let's go.
all right. So, last time we talked, we started getting in a little bit of the basics of credit. And so we want to break that down for you guys today in three super easy rules. And that's the thing I want to reiterate from what we were talking about last time is this is all going to be super easy to understand.
Yeah.
If you want to get more complicated, please, guys, comment, share your stories, share your questions, tell us.
Everybody loves the comeback story.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bring it in.
Yep. And on that note, Anthony, I mean, we all have our story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know how hard it can be out there, especially growing up. I mean, I've had nothing negative, almost, well, not almost, but I'm homeless up until now. I'm not saying I'm rich or anything, but I'm okay, So I've seen.
Oh, he doing all right. He doing all right.
He doing all right. But I've seen the worst and I've seen the best. So through all this, because I know a lot of you are probably going to be asking, like, what gives this guy, credibility? What is his experience? So, and it's life. I got a PhD in life. I can tell you that much. I've been.
And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it doesn't. You can't get certain lessons. You can't cheat your way through certain lessons. You gotta live through certain things.
Absolutely, you have to, and that's what builds the knowledge and the character and the strength. And I that brings me to
the
point.
believability that you can do it.
Absolutely, authenticity. Because you guys will be able to see through somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, this is what this is all about. It's about our experience, strength, and our hope, and what we aspire to as well. So want to get into it. 3 golden rules of credit. All right. The first rule is trade lines. How many trade lines you have, right? That's, as we talked about last time, you want to have no more than 2 trade lines. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up.
No, it's good. It's good.
I forgot what the first one is. You should have no more than 3 revolving. There we go. I was on the right track. Sorry, guys. I apologize.
No, you good. Well, hey, you guys, listen. We are here having fun.
Yeah,
James, we all know that my man James knows what he's talking about, but this podcasting thing, he's getting warmed up to it.
We gotta ease into it.
We ease it into that. So you guys be here for the knowledge, be here for the fun, the stories, the games, man, because we are trying to help everyone level up.
Right.
On this podcast. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
James is the king of helping people, and when we met, he just instantly started helping me, and we came together, and Wilson, of course, is my partner, so this all formed together for you guys.
Absolutely.
If you guys haven't saw part 1, you guys need to go see part 1. This is only part 2, man, and we are dropping gems. I'm going to let my man get back into Get into the slide.
I
told you,
he's
going to get geeky from time to time. He ain't even there yet. This is just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So, all right, first golden rule is trade lines. Like I said last time, you can have as many trade lines as you want of credit. Trade lines are just a line of credit on your credit report, which can be for a car or revolving accounts, meaning credit cards. So, but this is all for optimization of your credit card. We understand, and I want you guys to understand as well, that this is going to be very difficult to do on a consistent basis, especially when you don't really have a system in place yet.
Yep.
So it's just to give you the information to optimize your credit. So this means, like, if you're going to buy a car, or maybe you want to make a big purchase, RV, it could be anything, a house, get a better interest rate on a credit card, get a higher limit, whatever suits you and whatever's going to be the best fit for you, you can apply this to, okay? So again, the first golden rule of credit is you really don't want any more than 3 revolving trade lines at a time. Revolving trade lines is a line of credit, which again, Capital One, First Premier, Citibank, those type of cards. And I want to reiterate why they call it revolving. So of course you have a limit. You use that card, you charge it $300, right? That becomes your balance. You make that payment, whatever it may be, then it increases the amount that you have available again, right? So $400 minus that $300 would be $3,700.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
It's all right.
How do you know when it's okay to up yours? So if you started off with a $300 credit limit on your first credit card, continue making those payments.
Right.
Some people don't know that you can call in to the bank or whoever sent you that card and ask for a higher increase in that limit.
Right.
How long should you wait before you start increasing that limit? And when do they really cut that card off? Do they ever cut it off and say, okay, we're not going to give you past $2,000 on this $3,000 card. Now you're going to have to move to this new card, which starts off at $2,000, but this one goes up to $10,000.
Exactly. Well, it just depends on your situation, and that's great question too, by the way, because there's no easy or basic way, should I say, or generic way, that's a better way to put it, to manage this. It's what's best for you and what works based on your life position, right? Your finances, what you're looking to accomplish, what you're using it for. Because most of us, what we tend to do is get that credit card like we talked about last time and immediately max it out. So that just depends on your situation. And I don't recommend getting the $300 credit cards. There's no sense in doing that right away if you have other means, which is, again, what we talked about last time, is not saving your money until you get the $1,000,
right.
$1,000 saved up, and then you're going to go and get that secured credit card. But to answer your question specifically, typically about 6 to 12 months, depending on how you're managing that card. Like if you're just making the minimum payments, about 12 months, then you can go back in and ask for a credit limit increase.
Gotcha.
But 6 to 12 months is the general rule. But but it's also how you manage that balance as well. So if you immediately go out and you charge it $100, remember we were talking about the 15% rule last time as well.
Yeah.
So, but if you went out and charged it $100 and you made minimum payments on it for, let's say, 2 months and then paid it off, and then waited 1 month and then charged it again and then made minimum payments and pay it off, that looks much better than charging it $200 and making minimum payments on it for 7 months.
Got you.
Because what does that look like? It looks like
you can't pay me back my money.
Right. You're struggling. You're struggling. So why would I give you more money if you can barely pay me what I have now? Yeah. Right. And so not to mention the interest on that as well. It's because if you had a $300 balance and you made a $50 payment, not all $50 goes back to that balance.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's not going to give you an available $250.
Yes.
Right. It's going to offset the interest versus what's going to the actual balance of the credit card. So, but if you manage these cards, because not everybody has $1,000 to save up. That's like an astronomical number for a lot of us, right? Like how long is it going to take me to save that? 2-3 years? So, but you might want to get it done quick. So let's give you the quick way too. So that $300 credit card in this particular case, do exactly what we just talked about. You want to charge it, but only charge it to a balance that works for you, right? Based on your income level. So we want to go, maybe it's $50 on that $300 limit. So, $50 that you charge it, make the minimum payments for 1 to 2 months, then pay it off again. And just keep doing that perpetually. But back to the question specifically is no more than 3 lines of credit on your credit report at any given time. No more than 3 lines, because that way you keep it manageable for you. And then we go into managing the balances and the limits, right? Okay. Because that's what you really want to focus on, just those 3 cards, getting those limits as high as you possibly can, as quickly as you can. Because you don't need 20 cards at $500 limit.
Right.
You get 2 or 3, get them at $5,000 to $20,000, much more manageable. Not to mention your interest rates will decrease as you get higher balances as well if you're maintaining your credit the right way. Okay. So now we're going to get into rule 2. And this is really important. You primarily only want revolving accounts on your credit. Naturally, you're going to have a car and maybe some other things that we were calling installment loans last time. And then again, installment, I want to clarify what an installment trade line is on your credit. Installment, essentially you have a certain interest rate over a certain period, could be 2 years, 3 years, 30 years, whatever it is, and you have a set payment. That payment is installment payments on the amount of money that they loaned you, right? Most of the time it's secured by real property. 80% of the time, which means liens on your vehicle, your house, your RV, whatever it may be. But there are times that you can get installment loans on your person yourself, which is student loans. Some people might know who One Main is, and there's some of these these personal loan companies out there, they're considered installment loans as well. Interest rate's a little silly on those, but either way, just want to give you the basics of installment means set interest rate, set amount over a set amount of time, right? You know exactly when that's going to be paid off.
So I have a wait, we're getting into something.
Yeah.
This is going to be like the little part. Doom, doom, doom. Mythbusters, right? So yeah, Mythbusters
sir.
With James Lowry.
Yes, sir. I was watching him the other day too.
Yeah,
I love that show.
That's my stuff. So this myth has to do with, and I now know that it is revolving, and it makes sense why they would say this, but at the same time, is there any difference? When I was young, I was told that the best way to hurry up and get my credit good was to buy jewelry.
Well,
and it's a revolving account, right? Because it is technically a credit card because
it is a credit card, straight up.
You got to go in. You just don't. Well, sometimes you physically keys or K's is K's. K's. I don't really do jewelry.
Yeah, Jared, me neither. Yeah,
K's,
you know Jared, all them.
Yes.
Right.
So it is a credit card and they can send you one, but 9 times out of 10 you don't get one. You'll just go in there and they'll just put it on your social and let you walk out with the jewelry, send you a bill later.
Yep.
Right. So what is the reason? Have you heard that, first off?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to say that's a very common way to get, well, that's the most common way most people get credit. Even family members tell you, just go to a jewelry store, get you a little ring, and they'll give you a card. Now, it's not because a jewelry credit card is so different than any other credit card. They're just more lenient.
Yes. So your credit limit is a lot higher because my shit was up there. You know
was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, normally they will approve you. On the first one, it's like $1,000.
Yes, that's exactly.
Right.
But my first credit card was $300. So you telling me I'm going to get $300, $300. I got to mess with 3 different credit card companies. But I could go into this jewelry place and they're going to give me $1,000 right off the top. But it's also because the jewelry costs are marked up so much. So the stuff that they're selling you is higher. So they have to be able to get you something to get you in the doorway.
Absolutely.
With these credit cards, you can go buy anything. You can swipe your card wherever they're taking Visa, you can go and swipe.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So that's the difference. You're stuck into one. So why would they say that jewelry is a well, damn.
Because it's easier to qualify.
Okay.
See, every lending institution has what are called guidelines. Okay, it's just a certain set of rules that they want to see based on what they're loaning you, right? Whether it's jewelry or anything else. So on jewelry credit cards, now here's the big difference too: is jewelry, they have their own financing. They're not, sending you to Capital One or somewhere else. They lend their own money and have their own set of terms. Gotcha. And remember, they're giving you an item too, right? And they got some good lawyers. I mean, their litigation is pretty crazy. If you don't pay them, they're going to get their money relatively quick, But bottom line is this: to answer your question, it's super easy, a lot easier to get a jewelry credit card than it is a Capital One.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And that's only because of the guidelines are looser, right?
Yes.
And the thing about like a Capital One is they have so much regulation on them as it is. They got to make sure that they're trying to do, or making it at least look like they're trying to do everything possible to protect you and not get you overextended, right? So they want you to, they want to see it first, right? Yeah. And think about it too. When you're buying jewelry, what are you getting? You're getting jewelry.
Yes.
You think they're not going to try to come back and get that jewelry if you don't pay them?
Right.
Where's it at?
It's on my neck.
Where's it at?
It's in my ear. Yeah. I was an earring guy.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story, not to get off the beaten track, but I got
big diamonds. I see you back there, Wilson. You don't know the diamond you have to get in your head, boy. You for sure are gonna have to get the cubic zirconium. You're not gonna be able to get the real deal because the little diamond I had is not gonna work on your big ass.
Or
head.
At least the lab grown. Maybe you don't, meet in the middle. It's in between cubic and the real thing. Lab grown diamond.
Yeah, check it out in the sun, brother.
Yes, sir. But I apologize. I forgot where I was going with that story. But anyways, back to the rule number 2. So you primarily want revolving trade lines only. Again, you're going to have the cars. You're going to have the installment loans on there, student loans, whatever it may be. But what I mean is you're not going to focus on those trade lines. Just make your payments on time and you're good to go. But as it pertains to the revolving lines of credit, now these are much trickier to maintain because in our busy lives, we got so much going on. It's hard to remember, where you're sitting with your balance, when you're making payments, especially if you're actively trying to optimize your credit.
Yes.
Trying to make it the best that it possibly can be for whatever you're trying to do with it. And so That's why I say it's so important, and you're going to hear us preach this is system. You got to develop a system, and don't listen to anybody else. Well, I mean, take what they're saying with a grain of salt. And that just means take pieces of what you think is going to work best for you, and then try to put a plan into play. And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Don't worry about failing. You're going to screw up. You're going to do things that are wrong. But we don't learn from doing things right. We learn from doing things wrong, right?
Yes.
And so as we start moving through that, we'll get accustomed to the way that we need to manage these cards based on our situation. So that's most important, is just to make sure that you're staying in your wheelhouse and not letting it get out of hand. So in the beginning, it's going to be pretty complicated, and it's going to take you some time to develop that system, but it's imperative, because if you're not always aware of what's going on with that credit card, it's going to get away from you really quick.
Real fast.
Yeah, real fast. And then next thing you know, because here's the thing too, and I want to bring this home, and if you get a $300 credit card, right, and let's say you've done everything that you're supposed to, keeping the balance versus limit, no more than 15%, so on and so forth, eventually, obviously your credit score is going to increase at some point. Let's say 6 months, right? So now you went from, let's say a 620 credit score to, let's say, a 710 credit score. Now you're going to start getting offers in the mail, and this is the trap, okay? In your email and in your mailbox, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 limits potentially. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get those limits, but it's gonna,
it entices you because it looks so much better than the $300 and $600 cards you got in your wallet.
And let's face it, if you don't get 3, but you still get 1,000,
you're taking it.
You're taking it. You know what I mean? And then, next thing we know, we're like, feeling ourselves. We feel good about that, but that $1,000 gets charged up real quick, and now you can't manage that because that balance, that $1,000 balance in your minimum payments outside your monthly budget.
Yes.
Right? So next thing you know, you're making late payments. Yeah, you're making late payments, and your card goes backwards. And then once you're in there, when you got late payments and derogatory items on your credit, it's like quicksand. It is possible to get out if you have the right information, which is what we are doing.
Yes.
Giving you that information. You're going to be stuck. So
stop trying to stay up with the Joneses, brother.
You don't need to stay up with the Joneses. Ain't nothing wrong with nice stuff. I mean, I encourage that, but what are you getting it for, right? You don't need to do it because somebody else has it. Don't keep up with the Joneses. So no more than 3 trade lines, revolving trade lines at any given time on your credit, and you want to focus on keeping those limits as high as they can be. And how you do that is through making sure the balance versus limit, let's say on average, consistently doesn't go above 50%. The optimal number, the best number, is 15%, meaning you don't want the balance versus limit to be any more than 15% consistently. Optimization.
Listen to him again.
Optimization. Because
that's when you're trying to go get that big loan, that big loan, and you want that credit to be as high as possible.
Right.
When he's saying optimal, you want 15% when you are on the market for something.
Yeah.
You're on the market for something new. You need to keep that credit utilization at 15%
or less for optimization. So that means
I'm not here for facts. I'm here to throw James off a loop and give y'all laughs.
Alley-oop.
That's what I'm here for,
sir.
And to learn too. I'm listening.
Well, let me give you a scenario, right? Let's say you weren't really that focused on your credit. Okay, you don't really have any cards or anything, and you got a 660 credit score.
Yes.
Okay. You walk into you need a car,
Yeah.
right? Your other one broke down, whatever. Or it's just time. You
Yeah.
know, maybe it's that time in your life to level up. So you go into the dealership, do your thing, and a 660 FICO score is okay. It's not bad, but you know, when you're going to buy a major purchase like a car, they want you in the 700s for optimal credit. They'll still give you a loan, but a 660 credit score will give you like a 12, 13% interest rate if you're lucky.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, depending, you know, but averagely I'm speaking. I'm not speaking specifically. But averagely you'll get about a 12 or 13% on that car. Now, if you walked into said dealership with the 720 FICO, now you're at 2-3%.
I'm going to tell you guys the difference right now. When you go in to buy the car, if they come back and they say, Mr. Smith, come over here, follow me. Rather than, sir, I'm going to set you down right here. this sales rep is going to be out. Speak to you in a second.
Right.
There's a difference.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Big difference. You know, and you can.
They run that credit and they come back and their attitude is completely different. Because it's going to be a quick, easy sale, or it's going to be some work. They're going to have to call some banks. They're going to have to do some work for that sale.
They will.
And you're going to hear it in their voice right away. If you weren't aware of what your credit score was, because I know a lot of people are like me, their first or second time, you just going in. I feel like I've been doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my credit. There's no reason for me to check it. I've been making my little credit card payments. I've been doing what I'm supposed to be doing. My shit got to be good.
Yes, sir.
I done checked it on one of these little apps that's lied to
How
me.
much was it?
And told me it was way higher than what it was.
Right.
They told me my shit was like a 730. I get in there to go buy my car. It's like a 670. I said,
Man,
hold on.
that's a great point.
Whoa,
That's a great point, man.
What are you talking about? Look right here. I can show you. I'm at a 620, man. What is you talking? No.
There's
that right there.
It is, and I'm glad he brought this up, because there's difference in. I don't want to get this too confusing, but the credit score that, like, when you go into a bank and they look at it, it's a FICO score 8 system, okay? Which essentially there's just a couple different softwares that grade your credit to determine what your score is. So a lot of you are familiar with Experian and Credit Karma.
Yes.
Experian and Credit Karma, primarily, if you look on it, even like on your bank account where it says your credit score, it says credit wise, but that's not the software. It's FICO Score 8 or Score 8 software. You'll see it on the Experian and Credit Karma. Now, I haven't figured out exactly what parameters
they're grading you on
govern that. My logic tells me that it's taking into consideration just the last 24 months, what your history is, what your balance versus limits are, what your payment patterns are. So it's scoring you based on that. But honestly, think about this. Although Experian and Credit Karma are very useful tools, it's a trap. It's a tool to get you to get trapped, right? Because, and I'll tell you why. The first thing that happens when you log in to Experian is what? Offers.
Yes.
You're already guaranteed 98%. Now, you may not be looking for credit, but you know, when they slap that in your face, obviously it's going to be tempting, right?
It's enticing.
It's enticing, and the other part about that is they're going to always try to push you into this and profile you as well. They're selling your information to these companies. How do you think they know what you have? They're selling your information to these companies. So although they're very useful tools, you got to be careful. And that's why they use the higher FICO grading system, so it keeps you motivated, right? This is all psychological. Pretty much everything we do is all manipulation. They want us to act and behave a certain way, so they're going to do what it takes to get us to, they got that carrot in front of our face to get us, and we do it. But
so for instance, you're using Credit Karma or Experian, right, to get your credit score up. You're not worried about all the little pop-ups because you just want to see a 720, 730, right? You see that 720, 730 pop up, you head straight over to the dealership. Because you're like, I'm ready, right?
Straight up.
You sit down. What's going to happen when they come back and they tell you your credit score isn't what it thinks it is? You've already said in your head, I'm getting my car today.
Yep.
They've already got you there. You already want it. Just because the numbers got tweaked a little bit in the way that you feel, you get in that car.
Yep.
They trapped your ass.
And they know that, too, and they're going to get you.
'em.
They're going to attack you in that way. But let me go back to the FICO Score 8. So the FICO Score 2 is your true FICO. Gotcha. So let me tell you, so if I run a credit report on you, it's everything. I can see every line of credit you've ever had since the jewelry card, the Sears card, whatever it may be. I can see every address you've ever lived at. I can see every job you've ever had, every AKA you've ever used. So it goes back to the beginning of your first credit card up until present, right? And so it takes a lot into consideration. It's not just what's happened the last 12 to 24 months. So whenever you go into a financial institution where you're going to borrow a large sum of money, which is like purchasing a house, and I'm sure a lot of you have wondered, like, why is my credit score so much lower when I've had people cuss me out. Like, oh, you guys are the same and you just want to try. No, it's not like that. It's just misinformation. FICO Score 2 is going to consider your entire portfolio based off patterns over lifetime versus just the last year or two, right?
Got you.
Especially if you have any judgments, BKs, things like that. That all factors into that software. Then you'll notice that Equifax, it's called a tri-merge credit report is the type of credit report we pull because it has your Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion all on
together.
one credit report, right? Whereas Experian is Experian and Credit Karma's TransUnion and Equifax. Now, aside from those two platforms, if you guys are really working on your credit, you really want to go directly to the bureaus themselves and register your account with them. Okay, not Experian and TransUnion because they're going to charge you for that service.
Do they have an app?
Yes, they do. They absolutely do. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian.
Why do they not push them the same way that the Credit Karma's pushed?
Because Credit Karma's kicking them back. Experian's kicking them back. And this, I'm not 100% positive about this, but why else would they?
It makes sense.
Why else would they?
Right?
It does. It does. Right. And it's you got to play. You'll learn from us how to play that game, like how to use Credit Karma, when to use Credit Karma, and then Experian when to use Experian, so on and so forth. Because like, let's say we're working on your credit. Let's say you said, James, I want you to help me with my credit. Okay. First thing we do is we're going to pull that credit report, and I'm going to go over it with you line by line and make sure that you understand what you're looking at, number one, because otherwise it's going to sound like the Charlie Brown teacher. Wah, 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 wah. And that's not what we do. And
Wilson, you know that one? Did you get that one? Womp womp.
Did you he's like Charlie Brown.
I'm sorry, that's the young fella that's in the room. We got it. Okay, my bad, James. I got it.
Got him. Got him. Got jokes. Young whippersnapper.
Gonna learn today.
You gonna learn today. All right.
I'm sorry, man. Y'all gotta love this. Y'all not gonna get y'all financial help anywhere else like this, man. We're bringing it to you something new, man.
No. So let's say I ran your credit and we're going over it and make sure you understand it 100%. And normally you're gonna have. I mean, everybody has collections. Let's keep it 100. You know, everybody has collections or negative items on their credit report. So I tailor everybody's structure different, like their plan that I'm going to put in place, because as we said before, like what works for Anthony doesn't work for me, not entirely, you know. I mean, obviously we have a lot in common and we're going to impart wisdom and knowledge to one another, but at the end of the day, his life is his life and my life is my life. So when I engaging him, I'm going to make sure that I'm tailoring his plan that's specific for him, because it's going to be a lot easier for him to manage that, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to get ourselves into habits, and the only way we can get ourselves into habits is through repetition. And so the more familiar something is to us, the easier it is for us to slide into that system, that program, right? Because like I use that analogy about driving, we want it to be autonomous. That's what I want, you know. And I do not just fix people's credit. Like that's not what we do, is like you pay me and I'm going to fix it. No, because that's enabling you. I don't want to enable you. I want to educate. I want to walk with you through this process so you fully understand it. Because if you don't gain, it's like overeating, right? You go working out to the gym and everything else, but if you don't change your eating habits, what are you doing? You know, you might look a little bit better, but it's a mindset. It's not just an action of actually doing. So anyways, I'm guilty too, man. I always have that off and on.
Wore my Nike workout shirt on.
And it was that in his Nike workout pants too. He's ready, eating a cookie and some milk and cookies. But so we're gonna go through that. So the Credit Karma and Experian apps, the reason why, you know, again, those are useful tools is you can dispute negative items directly through those apps, and they do all the heavy lifting for you. Meaning, like if you had Experian and TransUnion and you had negative items on there, they're a lot more difficult to get a hold of and get things rectified than Credit Karma and Experian.
Right. So what is the speed? It's harder to get them to do it, but does it come off faster?
Yes, it can. If you're proactive, if you have what you need at your fingertips, okay. Absolutely. Because what they're gonna do is, let's say you had a collection on your account and you said, I want to dispute this. Yeah. And you always want to dispute things. based on balances, not anything else, right? Unless it's legit. Like if you know you didn't have a late payment in June and you can prove that you never had a late payment in June, then dispute it. But if you can't prove it, don't even attempt. It's pointless. Stupid. So, but that's why it's always better to dispute items based on balance, because balance you don't have to necessarily prove. Yes. They'll go to the creditor, like say it's a Capital One, Experian or Credit Karma or Experian, yes, will go to that creditor and say, hey, Anthony says that this balance is incorrect. Now, they have 30 to 45 days to respond.
Okay.
With accurate information. If they do not respond,
soft.
Deleted.
Really?
Deleted. But they have to be able to prove back to Equifax, Experian. It's not just he does owe that money or he doesn't. No, it's legit. It's like, you show me.
Yes.
Show me, right? And if you can't show me, remove it. Now, they can sell it and it comes back on your credit as a collection later on with somebody else. Like say it's Capital One to begin with. Mm-hmm. Capital One, when you see a charge off, that means they wrote it off as a loss. They wrote it off on their taxes as a loss. They're not getting their money. They understood that. However, then they sell it to
whoever.
What's one? Portfolio Recovery Services, and for pennies on the dollar, and then they wind up getting the collection effort. So anyways.
And then they blow your phone.
They do. But that's, again, we're going to get in later with the tactics that you can use to keep them off your back and to stop sweating you, because it's harassment. They cannot legally continue to harass you. It wasn't even their debt. They bought that debt from someone else who wrote it off already. So anyways, yeah.
Ooh, y'all done touched something in the soul.
Yes, sir.
Hold on.
So,
real quick, before we get on to the next subject, let me interject. Not interject. How important is it for your spouse to have good credit?
Very important.
Let's say, traditionally, the man goes to work. He brings in the money. His credit is good. He has a housewife. It's almost impossible for her to have
domestic goddess.
Yes. How does that work? How important is it for her to have good credit? And how do you help your significant other to this next level? Right?
Man, that's an amazing question. It really is a good question, man, because I went through this with my wife as well, but it's very important. But at the end of the day, it just depends on what your relationship dynamic is, I mean, because I know several people, and this is...
And then the other thing is, when did those two credit scores need to combine into one superpower to do something?
Ooh, when you need that income to qualify for a house.
Okay.
Right? So if you make enough money on your own to purchase a house, let's say like wife had 660, you had a 780. You don't want wifey on the loan. Well, I mean, you can have her on the loan, but your rate's going to be higher at a 660 credit score versus a 700. Now, back in the day with home loans, it used to be whoever made more money is the credit score we would use. Even if it was by $1, whoever made more money, we use their credit score.
Really?
Nowadays, it's whoever has the lowest. If anybody, you could have 4 people on an application, whoever has the lowest credit score, you're using that.
Why?
You have to. You have to.
Really?
Yep. Which is garbage.
That's
it's all
crazy.
A game, man. It's all a game. So, to answer your question specifically, it really just depends on what you're doing, right? But when you're married,
you said something right there. You can have 4 people on a house loan?
Oh yeah, do it all the time.
Wow.
Gets pretty sticky, but you can do it if you know what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. Maximum 4 people on
That's
a loan.
a hell of a marriage.
Yeah. Well, normally you got family members, right?
No, I
Dad.
know. Grandpa might co-sign. It might be you, your wife, and one of the grandparents co-sign. I can see that happening.
Right.
I can see the co-signer coming in to, help hopefully bring down the interest rate. But now what you just said, they taking my girl's
interest rate away. You're bringing it down, because you're using you need the income, because there's 3. Well, here we go, right? So there's 3 parameters of qualifying for a house: credit score, debt to income ratio, and debt to income ratio is just what you have on credit, any car payments, any credit cards, all added together with the new proposed house payment, right? So we add those numbers together and divide them into your gross monthly income. If that number's it, depending on what kind of loan you're doing, but generally FHA is 55% or less, meaning your balance or your how much money you have coming in versus going out every month is not higher than 55%, and that's on gross income. But if you need someone to qualify, because I do that a lot, is qualify the husband but not put the wife on, because if you add the wife to the loan, it drops the rate.
Yeah, I got cussed out for that.
You know, yeah. But she can still be on the house, though. That's the way I get around that, you know, because, of course, wifey, or I've done it with the husband, too. But they feel some type of way. They
do, real quick.
Like, you're going to take off on me and I don't have, no, you can be on the home.
Why they need to talk to you? They don't need to get none of my information.
Right. Which actually works out better, because then wifey's not obligated for the loan, but she gets the house if something happens.
I'm like, bruh, hold on, chill, it's good.
Easy. So, yeah, so in the state of California or any community property state, if you're legally married, you must, the wife either has to sign what's called an interspousal deed, which means that she's saying that I don't want anything to do with the house and that's all you, or she's signing the deed of trust to put herself on the house, but she's not obligated on the loan, though. Okay, so it won't show up on her credit. She won't, none of that.
Yes.
But so a lot of the times what we wind up doing, or excuse me, I wind up doing is making those tweaks to the wife's credit to see what we can do quickly to bring it up to the husband's, or vice versa. But most of the time, ladies are gonna like this one. Most of the time, the women have higher credit scores than the men.
Ooh.
Right? But to our defense, we're our heads, you know how we are. We got blinders on a lot of the times. We get into something and we're just
it's go
focused.
All gas.
You know what I mean? Work. So, but we love you. We do, because you ladies complete us. You really, I don't understand, that sounds cheesy, but you actually do. You know, yin and yang, opposites attract, and you know, that's why God makes us one, you know, because we complement one another quite well. But so when you're disputing the items on your credit, they have 30 to 45 days to respond. If they do not respond, they get deleted. So, you know, if you got 5 items on your credit that are derogatory, whether they're collections or not, or judgments, whatever it may be, judgments are a little more difficult to get off, but let's just say collections. If you have 5 collections and you dispute all 5, typically at least one of them are going to get deleted.
Okay.
You know, so we always start there first, because, you know, it's better to start with from somewhere than and having to do that extra work, you know. But that being said, then you come back and you start working on your credit from there. Now, again, everybody's scenario is different depending on what your financial position is. I typically tailor that to fit your scenario. But what you get with me that you don't get with a lot of other places is the accountability. You know, you're going to hear me say stand shoulder to shoulder a lot, and I mean that. I really, really do mean that, and that just means holding you accountable, right? If you want me to invest my time in you and not charge you anything, then you have to take that active involvement in your life as well, you know? And at the end of the day, that's where we fall by the wayside a lot of the times, you know, with anything, is we have the best intentions in the world, but when we actually get into it, life happens, you know, it just gets busy, and kids and work and all that. And then, okay, well, this week I'll just let it slide. Then 1 week turns into 2. Next thing you know, you're back in the same behavior. So the most difficult part about what I do is not the actual work. It's the convincing people to take an active involvement in their own life. You know, because we get so sidetracked with everything else, we need someone to have our back. Yeah. And that's where I come in. You know, if we set up a plan and I say, hey, look, Anthony, I'm going to call you every Thursday to make sure you're saving that extra money so you can apply that extra payment towards that credit card. You know, 1 week when I call you on that Thursday, if you don't answer, all right. You know, that second week, if you don't answer, I'm not helping you anymore. Yeah. I'm not, because you don't. But most of the time,
You're not trying to help yourself.
Right? 1 week, I can understand. I call you. You're like, oh, man, I forgot to do that, but I'm going to get on it. Second week, you're like, oh, let me do this because I know James is going to call. Yeah. But eventually, it just becomes repetition. And next thing you know, you see that credit score. And obviously, that motivates you even more. But anyway, so
in comparison to your credit score going down, how does it go? Can it go up just as fast?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we talk about the higher limit credit cards, because you can swing that quick. You can make one move in 30 days and say, I need an extra 30, 40 points, and just make that little minor move, and bop, you get it. And that's what you want to use credit as a tool. Yes. You know, you need to buy a camera. You want a motorcycle, or you want that new, what are they called? Razors, you know, the ATVs. You want to go in there with an optimal interest rate, you know? I mean, because those things cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And an interest rate on a 660 credit, although they'll still give you the vehicle. And remember, we're impulsive. We're like emotional creatures.
Now.
So we really want this. Yes, I want it. The homies got it. Keeping up with the Joneses.
I want it now, especially with the razors in the off-road community right now.
Man.
What? Right? I was all in. And then they told me that Mud Joker was $30,000. I was all out.
Yep.
That's a whole brand new Accord. I'm not doing that.
It is, and you know they don't cost that much to build, but just because of supply.
But at the same time, I still need the trailer to pull it.
Yep.
I still need the truck to pull it.
Yep. Then you need speakers.
Yes.
Right? You need them too.
The 30,000 don't even get me to Glamis.
No.
Like, that gets me right here to the desert where I could just, like, and some of you guys live in the city, so it's even worse for you guys. Y'all can't even leave. You just romping up and down the street for 30,000, 40,000 because you couldn't get the trailer
because you have an ATV on the road, whatever. But you know, and that means a difference between you getting, you know, a 13, 14% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. Now, when later on when we start breaking down the interest payment, see, we don't really kind of look at it that way because we want that item so bad. We're like, okay, I'll do what I got to do. I'll work those extra hours. I'll this, all that. But
you don't when put it into accountability.
No, and when you really realize how much interest you're losing over time, you'd slap yourself, you know? I mean, you're just driving down the street and throwing money out the window, you know, and it's crazy. And I'm sure you can think of a lot better things to do with 11, 20 grand than to drive down the street and throw it out the window.
But it's lovely ladies that work at night, you know, at certain nightclubs, and they like to get it rained on too. You ain't just got to throw it out the window. You can go to these nice facilities and throw it there. You know, there's other places to throw it.
Right, but what we want.
My bad.
Very true. But what we want to do is put that money to work for you. You know what I mean? Not not in that way, but we want
ladies, I can get it to work for you too.
That's it. Anybody, we want to teach you how to put that money to work for you. So, you know, at the end of the day, you just always want to be aware of where your money is going and why is it going there and what you can do to minimize that bleeding and that hemorrhaging. But that's what ultimately we're doing here, is reprogramming you to think differently, because most of our lives we've been conditioned, programmed to behave this way and to act this way because that's what we see everyone else doing. But we're here today to just ask you to do one thing is that's ask questions. Ask questions, because if we're asking questions, then we're thinking. If we're thinking, then now we're starting to move differently through life and saying, hey, but I know most of the time when you're trying to find this information, it's super complicated or hard to understand. And that's why we're here, is to give it to you in this simple format. So you want to make sure, again, no more than 3 revolving trade lines at a time. And if, you know, start easy. Start with 1. I don't mean go get 3 all at once. I mean start with 1. Develop
now, when
system.
you say 3, is it okay for me to have 7, but I'm only using 3 at a time? Because,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
The other ones have no balance, but they're still there.
Right. And that's why I say
I just
you
wanted
can have
to make that clear.
Absolutely. You can have as many trade lines as you want.
You're
but
only utilizing,
right? And that's why this is important. It's because you want to get the system. You don't want to start with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, trade lines at one time and not know how to manage it.
And that's what happens. You get approved for something, and then as soon as you go to Kohl's, hey, do you have a Kohl's card?
Yeah.
And you like
20% off.
Hey, my credit is good now, girl. Give me that little paper, sign it out. Before you know it, you hit Walmart.
Yep.
She hit you with the same thing. Yep. You hit Target, they hit you with the same thing. So it's everywhere.
It is.
It's not just the ones that come in the mail.
It is.
The only time you probably don't get hit is at the gas station. But everywhere else, any type of most of these institutions, before you leave, they're offering you a credit card.
They are.
And if you came from bad credit and now your credit's getting a little good, and Capital One's sending them, you feeling good about yourself.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna take that Kohl's card.
Yes, you will.
And holiday season is coming.
Yes.
And they are pushing on their employees to get you guys to fill out these credit cards.
Yes.
So be smart and strategic when you're out there.
Very and aware, right? Do I need this?
Oh,
and I know the main way that they get us is what? I'll give you 20-30% off your purchase right now
and that
if you
purchase
apply for this credit card today. Whether you get it or not,
Yes.
I'm still gonna, because
Yes.
now they got your information too in their profile. They're gonna market you now.
Yeah.
You know, so
Either way, they're gonna get their money back.
they're gonna get their money one way or another. You know, so
Kohl's is good at that one. Them some tricky dudes.
Macy's too, man.
Yes.
Macy's is cold with it, man.
Anybody that's giving you some cold bucks or some Macy dollars to get you to come back into the store, listen, it's not good today. It's good in 3 weeks when none of this stuff gonna be on sale.
Kohl's Cash. They used to get me
and
all the time.
Wear you out.
Yeah, but seriously, and anybody who shopped at Kohl's knows that too. Like because things are expensive at Kohl's now. But when you get that Kohl's Cash, you're incented to purchase more. So you get the Kohl's Cash, so your discounts go down. I mean, it's brilliant.
Insane.
It's brilliant. It really is. But all right, and that takes us into the third. Well, let's put the period behind the end of the sentence. No more than 3 trade lines at one time. Revolving trade lines. Visa, MasterCard, revolving trade lines. So this is the most important rule of them all. If you don't hear anything else I talk about, it's this. Rule number 3 is credit utilization. Credit utilization. And what that means.
I just came up with another question. So, me personally, I have probably 5 or 6 credit cards, right?
Okay.
But I only use one. But with this being said,
what's the limit on that? And why do you only use that one? It's obviously because it probably has a pretty big limit, right?
It's 10,000 is the limit.
Right.
It's with my bank.
Okay.
It's connected, so every time that I open my Chase account, I can see my card.
Yep.
Right, so it makes it easy.
Yes.
Boom, boom.
All
I know.
in one linear.
Yes,
right.
I can see where I'm at.
You can transfer money to it and
right away.
Right, exactly.
It's connected, so it's automatically going to take the minimum payment.
Right.
I can't mess up and miss a payment.
Right.
But my credit utilization is always going to be higher because I'm not utilizing the other cards. Right.
Right.
So technically, over the 5, I should keep the 3 and put maybe. So let's just say all of them are 10,000. They're not.
Right.
I got one that's like 5, one that's 2, and then the one that's 10.
Okay.
Put in a couple $100 and spreading my usage of those cards rather than just having them all on the one through Chase, spreading them between my top 3.
Got it.
To keep my utilization down is a question. Yes.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
right now I strictly use the Chase.
Right.
I have the other ones, but I kind of use them like emergency cards. Let's just say it's I have one that was my out of town card, right? So we fly around, videography, blah, blah, blah. Anytime we go out of town, I want to know that all of my out of town purchases were on this card.
Got it.
Right? And it's because when I get home, I get to give that invoice to the client and it's paid right off.
Right.
So I don't never have to worry about mixing it in with my personal finances over here on my Chase or on another card.
As it should be.
Then my second card was the family vacation card.
Okay.
When we go on vacation.
I'm sorry, are any of these business credit cards, are they all personal?
All personal.
Okay.
We got to get the business card is coming.
Yeah.
But that's going to be something that we need you to dive into.
It's a lot different on business than it is personal, guys.
You see my guy Wilson back there. He getting happy. He's shaking his head. I seen the heady monster.
Yeah.
I seen that chair rocking back and forth, that head tilted about 2 inches. Whole chair moved. Anyways, but that's how I had it set up.
Right.
So now I'm realizing through being a part of this podcast, I'm doing it all wrong. I gotta mix it up. You know what I mean?
And then it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's just you got to switch some things around, right? There's really not. I wouldn't say what works for you is no one's here to tell you right from wrong, right? Yes. And whatever works best for you is how we want you to adhere to these principles, right? So, for you, Anthony, now if you're not worried about making sure your credit score is as high as it possibly can be, do what you want to do.
Got you.
Right? Do it. Just don't go above 50%.
Gotcha.
Utilization, meaning balance versus limit, do not exceed 50% because as soon as you hit that 50% mark, your credit score is going to go, over the 50% mark. Then your credit score starts going backwards.
Got you.
50 to 60. Let's say, I'm just speaking averagely, like 5 to 10 points, right? Then if you go to 70 to 80% credit utilization, you're 15 to 20 points.
Gotcha.
If you're at limit, or actually really over limit, that will ding your credit score almost as if you had a 30-day late on your credit.
Really?
If you go over limit, and here's the cold part about it is almost every credit card, and I probably shouldn't say this, but they'll allow you to go 10% over limit. Every credit card will allow you to go 10% over whatever your limit is. But immediately when you go over limit,
Bing, bing, bing.
you're going backwards 30, 40, 50 basis points.
Gotcha.
Depending on what the limit
Yes.
on that credit card is.
Yes.
So a $10,000 limit on a credit card for you means, boop, 20, 30 at least. At least.
Oh.
So if you're not worried about where your credit is right now, absolutely, just use the one. You know, I do the same thing. I, have one for business.
And it makes it because, like you said earlier, with us guys,
yeah,
it's easy to get
streamline it.
It's
Yeah.
so much going on that it's like, golly, I forgot to pay this credit card.
Yeah.
I forgot to pay this credit card. I do have another credit card that I do is a business credit card, but all of my camera stuff goes on that. My PayPal I
Smart.
consider my business card, right? That's all camera gear, and it's normally paid off.
Sorry, what's your interest rate on that? Let's see if you know offhand. What's your interest rate on that?
Oh, James. So listen. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know the interest rate, but what I do know is it's free as long as I make it before 6 months. As long as the purchase
There's got to be
is paid
some
off,
service fee attached to it, don't you think?
it most definitely probably is.
Right.
But the interest rate doesn't kick in, and I never really see a huge surcharge because I always go back. But all of that stuff is paid off within 2 months.
And do you have it on automatic payments as well?
No. I have
that
no.
one's okay.
I have it not on automatic. No. Automatic payment to where the minimum payment is being made if the card. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
So it's always going to take the minimum payment from whatever.
But obviously you
account.
chunk it out even more depending on what you used it. You're always monitoring that, right?
So if we need something for a job, that job is going to bring in money.
Absolutely.
When that money comes in, half or maybe 3/4 of that is going back to pay the gear off.
See, he's talking about a business. Now, no matter what your business, if you're sneaker resale, if you're YouTube, any of that, see, Anthony is inadvertently giving you a huge gem right now. You need to watch your profit versus expenses. Profit versus expenses. He's going out to his job. He already knows how much money he's making on this job, what he's going to need to spend for this job. That's how he probably knows what he needs to charge for that job, right?
Yes, most definitely. And we have a lot of gear, but gear continuously comes out, and we're trying to stay innovative. So there's more stuff that you're constantly going to need. Right. So me and Wilson talk about it. We figure out if it's something that we need for that particular job that we can't go rent, that we need to own.
Primary question.
There's certain things, there's certain things that you can own, certain things that you can rent, and certain because you're only going to need it that one time. It's very specific for you to need it for this one job and then never need it again. Right. So rent it.
So why spend $200 on something you don't really need?
Exactly. And for us, it's like $4,000. Well, so why am I going to go spend $4,000 on this one thing that we're going to use one time and it's going to sit here and we may get to it next year? Right. So we're renting that for $200 instead of spending the $4,000 and it collecting dust.
And you get to write it off because it's a business expense, right? He paid for that.
The other thing that I like about my PayPal is it tells me on the bottom when you go to make the payment. If you do not make this amount of a payment, the interest is going to be charged for this amount here. So you get the choice. So with that card, it never gets to that point. I've only seen that extra tab show up one time, but every other time it's like it's constantly being paid off.
See, and he's always aware of that, right? So if he doesn't need that extra boost in his FICO, then he's straight. But he makes a great point. See, he's aware of what his interest rate is. Now, whether it's a credit card, whether it's an installment loan, we just focus on payment. But if we're thinking more of what our average interest rate is on something, we really become aware of how much money that's costing us by making minimum payments. Because, if you have a $3,000 balance on a credit card and you're only making minimum payments, it'd blow your mind at how much that's going to cost you. Don't hold me to this, not specific, but it's about $11,000, somewhere around that, about $11,000 in interest and take you like 14, 15 years to pay it off. That's if you're making minimum payments on a $4,000 balance credit card, and it's crazy.
And I had a card when I was 18 that somehow they gave me a $10,000 credit card, right? I got it worked up and I was at 10 bands, right?
Damn.
The only reason, I'm going to tell you guys, the only reason I was able to pay this card off was because I had a kid. That was it. And for 3 years straight, when I did my taxes, I used every dollar that I got back from having a kid, being head of household, all of the stuff that goes along with that, and put it on the card.
Hey, man. Hey, give him props on that because
every
that's
year,
not
because
easy
there was
to
no
do.
way. I paid the minimum payment because it wasn't changing, James. No matter how much I paid on that card, it would go down like $4. So I said, okay, you guys are going to get this $40 every month all the way until I get my taxes, and I'm going to whop you with $3,500. There you go. $3,500,
Yep.
and I just did that every year until that thing, and I chopped up the Capital One card, and fuck you guys, I'm never going back to Capital One. Oh, sorry. You got sorry. But I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, it's
and I really started
crazy.
looking at it, and I'm like, first off, I couldn't believe I got the credit card up to 10 bands.
Right. Huge.
On nothing.
Right.
I literally had, so that's another thing that I do with my credit cards. If I'm going to use my credit card, I want to see it.
Yes.
I want to touch it. I want to hold it. I want to be able to go back and say, I remember buying you. I remember why I bought you, and I still like you, or I don't like you at all, and I shouldn't have had this purchase. But the food, the things that I can't go back on are
groceries
out of here.
And I'm glad. Hold up. I'm glad he's bringing this up because a lot of us, when we get credit cards, what do? We put gas, groceries.
What?
Like really intangible
Everyday items. Taking your homies to the movies. Your homie can't get in. Swipe it on the card. Bro, I got you.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. What I'm saying is you got to be aware. Like, see, my credit cards, I get cash back on them, right? I pay special attention to that, whether it's a frequent flyer card and I get points. But I'm always looking at what benefits come with what. Now, I don't recommend this if you don't have a system already in place and you're not financially disciplined. But averagely, I make like $1,100 a month just on the cash back on the credit cards. Now, granted, a lot of my credit cards are for business use and whatnot, so it's a little bit different as far as the amounts that are being used. Same principle, just when you're doing something with business, it turns into $4,000 to $10,000 swings instead of $4,000 to $1,000. But not bragging, just putting it in perspective, right? So if you're maintaining, like, imagine you getting an extra $1,000 a month free money. Yes. And what I do is I charge it, and then as soon as I see the balance hit, I pay it off. Charge it, because some of the credit cards try to get a little finicky with you. Like if you don't pay it off within a certain amount of time, like they reduce your cash, whatever. But buy something, turn around and pay it off. Again, this is all when you're not looking to optimize your score. This is just Anthony and I talking about day-to-day stuff. So don't adhere too much to what we're saying.
If you're not optimizing, check out.
Yeah, exactly. Check out. Don't pay interest on cards you don't need to. And this is all about leveraging. And this is a lot of what you're going to get from this podcast is teaching you how to move within whatever space that you're in.
Because everybody's situation is going to be different.
Everybody's. Again, sneaker reset, whatever it is. It's all the same fundamentals. It's just giving you the different tools so you can move how you need to move, right?
Yes.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. But as we talk about the three golden rules, those are what you really want to just embed in yourself, in your mind. And again, rule number 3 is credit utilization. It is the most important rule of them all, and it is the most hardest to maintain consistently, right? Yeah. Because you always have to be monitoring your credit. That's why, like I say, the Experian and Credit Karma apps, most of them, they're profilers, but there are useful tools if you use them for the right reasons, right? Yeah. One of the ways that you use them as a useful tool is monitoring, right? It's going to notify you every time your credit score goes up or down, so you're always aware of what's going on. So you want to make sure that the balance versus limit consistently stays at what?
15%.
When you're optimizing the cards, right? So never, and let me back up with that. So again, $1,000 credit card, you charge it $150. Now, you don't want to turn around and pay that off right away. A lot of people, that's counterintuitive. That's what we should do when we're not worried about optimization. However, that's not what the algorithm, the system, the computer system wants to see. So you want to go to the $150 balance. You make minimum payments on it for 1 to 2 months. But you're monitoring this every time, right? You're monitoring, okay, you make that one payment. At 30 days, you'll see it cycle. If your score is where you need it to be, pay it off. Pay it off. Period. If it's not, let it cycle another month. Because sometimes the credit utilization is this. What your payments look like, how consistently you're making those payments, what are those payment amounts, right? And over what time frame are you paying this money back? Is it 3 months, 6 months? That's why you want to get the payment history in the 1 to 2 months. Then you pay it off. Then you charge it again. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why you would charge it again is if your credit score is still not where you need it to be. So 150 minimum payment 1 month, minimum payment 2 months. If you see where it needs to be, then pay it off, right? But sometimes you'll pay it off to help boost your score too. So you'll 1 to 2 months make the minimum payment, pay it off, let it cycle 1 month at a zero balance, then charge it again because you're showing payment, you're showing ability to repay that almost zero balance, and then utilizing it again, and then doing the same thing. So basically, you're kind of creating a software in a sense and actions that's tricking the system.
You're moving
to
your
be
own
like,
algorithm.
okay, exactly. So now the system's gonna be like, okay, cool, let's go, boom. Next thing you know, your credit score went from a 680 to a 730 and 60, 90 days just by that little. And yes, it is this easy, folks. It is that easy. A lot of these companies out there want to try to tell you that it's, or make you believe like this is something that you got to pay for. It's just an impossible goal to obtain, and it's not. I know I hear from people all the time tell me it's not that easy, James. I didn't pay Lexington Law and all these other companies $2,000-$3,000, and you're going to do this for me for free. And this is what they said, and this is what I don't care what anybody else says. What they do is what they do, and what I do is what I do. And at the end of the day, I can give you 400 or 500 phone numbers of people that I've helped that will tell you completely the opposite of what these other companies are telling you. But they want to make it seem like it's difficult and it's hard to do, because why would you pay if it was easy, right? Yeah. If they didn't make it seem that way, they couldn't charge you what they charge you. Right. Some of you have heard about these companies or delete this and do, and that's I'm not taking anything away from those people. What they do is what they do, and we have avenues for that as well. But my get down is not instant fixes for people and digging in your pocket for loose change. That's not what we're doing here. This is about changing the narrative and making a difference in a way that it can impact not only you, because at the end of the day, this isn't about us. This has nothing to do with us. This is really about our kids and the planet and the life and the world that we're leaving them. And right now, it's garbage, right? And you can't transmit something you haven't got. Mm-hmm. How are you going to transmit it if you don't have it? You may talk about it, like we're real good at talking a good game, right? Especially to our kids.
There's a whole lot of talkers.
Thank you. Do as I say, not as I do, right? But do this, Johnny. Do that, Johnny. Do this, Susie, But, our kids will listen to us because we're their authority
but
figures.
it starts to go in one ear and out the other.
Because they see us not acting that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're looking at us like, all right, Jimmy.
Pops is on some BS.
Right.
He telling me to do this, and I ain't never seen him do it.
Absolutely. But when they see us moving in this space and being different, and the quality of life changes, it does. I've seen it a million times. Like, it's crazy how much the quality of life can change with the right focus and a bit of financial freedom. So that's what we're about, is really giving you these keys and these gems so now you can move differently within that space and change your mentality and your way to thinking to what's truly important, and that's the kids sitting in your children, your wife, your friends, your family, and not being weighed down by those shackles of financial slavery, because that's really what it is. So want to put the period behind the end of the sentence on this, and that is, again, credit utilization. You do not want, when you want to optimize it, you do not want the balance versus limit over 15%. I mean, you'll hear a lot of people talk about 30% and 40%, and they're not wrong. Those are good numbers. They're just not optimal numbers, right? Minimum payments for 2 to 3 months, then pay it off, and if it's still not where you want it to be, charge it again. Repeat, rinse and repeat. But one last thing is you got to be careful when you're making the payment, right? Because let's say it's the 26th of October, right? And you made your payment. Now, they report to the bureaus, like Capital One and all these other companies, they report to the bureaus once a month. Mm-hmm. Now, you got to be aware of kind of around what day they're going to report that information. So let's say most companies, they usually do it around the 26th. So what that means is let's say you went on your Capital One credit card and you made the payment. You see the available balance because you made the payment, right? But on your bank account, it still shows pending. It hasn't cleared. So if that payment has not cleared your bank account, they will not update it They'll show that it was made, but they won't fully update it for the next month because you missed that. You missed that mark. You missed that window, right? And there's really no like super cookie cutter way of knowing when exactly to do that. Golden rule for me is just make the payment before the 23rd.
Gotcha.
If you want it to reflect for the next month,
Yep.
make the payment for the 23rd. So not only are you getting that mark is that month was paid, but your balance is decreasing as well.
Dropping gems. Dropping
Credit.
gems. 23rd. You heard it. Don't miss the 23rd, man.
23rd.
With that being said, man, we got to cut this episode. I love this. I love this. I love this. I hope you guys are loving this. We are all here, man, trying to help our personal financials and most of all help you guys' financials. James, he's already there. You know what I mean? He's over here helping out me and Wilson. And we just happen to have some cameras. So we decided to help out you guys as well.
Please, and ask your questions. Please, no matter what they are, we want to hear your experiences, your experience, strength, and hope as well. But questions, what is this? What is that? I don't have the answers to everything, but this is all about growing and coming together and becoming whatever this is. Together, all of us, that you guys know that someone has your back and is not going to be digging in your pocket for loose change, right? I don't know no one knows everything, but come on through. We love you guys. We'll see you soon.
All right, man.